Hello, and welcome to this tutorial on setting up EcsRx within a .NET console application. To start with, we'll need to make our new console application. I will be using JetBrains Rider, however you can use any IDE that you feel comfortable with. Once we've made our console application, we can quickly run it just to confirm that everything works as intended. Now that we've seen that all works, we need to quickly make a way to stop the application from shutting down once our application's been started. So to do that, we will quickly add a small amount of code, which is not EcsRx specific, but this will keep the application open until we press an escape key. Now if we run it, we can see that the application will just wait until we close it manually. So once that's in place, we need to go get the NuGet files, which allow us to start using EcsRx functionality within our console application. So for this example, we will want to pull in the EcsRx infrastructure library, as well as a dependency injection provider, which we'll be using EcsRx infrastructure.ninject for in this example. You're free to use any other provider that's supported. In Unity they use different ones, such as Zinject. This example assumes that you will be using the infrastructure library. You do not necessarily need the infrastructure library if you do not want dependency injection and plugins, and in that case you would just use the base EcsRx library by itself. So now we'll need to make our application, which is the entry point for EcsRx. So we'll call this my EcsRx application. EcsRx provides a base class which you can use to drive your own applications from. Under the hood, this implements an interface, which you can manually implement if you wish, but for the sake of simplicity, we will just use the existing application and implement the members which are needed. I personally like having the properties at the top, so let's move that up there. And then we will need to tell this what provider to use, which in this case is our Ninject dependency container. This tells EcsRx to use Ninject implementations under the hood whenever it requests dependency injection functionality, because EcsRx provides a abstraction layer over that. Once we're done with that, we will need to get the collection that contains all the entities within the given application. Then we want to get an entity from that, in which we'll use collection.createEntity. Once we then have the entity, we can then start adding components to it. So let's add a new component called console component, which doesn't exist yet, but we'll add that in a second. So now we'll create this class, and a component in itself is just purely a data container within the EcsRx paradigm. So we'll implement the I component, which signifies to EcsRx that this is purely a component. We'll also quickly need to add in an extension method here to allow us the add component generic. Then we'll need to add one property in, which will basically contain an integer value for how long it's been alive. Now that we have this simple component, we need to start putting this somewhere. Now, the ideal layout would be a components folder with a namespace, and a systems folder with a namespace, but we'll get onto systems in a minute. So let's move the component into there. So now let's fix the namespace so it more accurately represents it within the components folder. The EcsRx application base class provides quite a few overrideable members. We won't be needing to override all of them, however you can see the full life cycle on the documentation. For more complex scenarios, you may be needing to override some of these, such as bind system. However, the application will for free bind any systems which are found within a system's namespace. So for now we won't be needing to use any of these, but it's worth knowing that they're there. So now let's create a simple system, and this system will be in charge of making sure that elapsed time is tracked on the component. We'll be using the iBasicEntity system interface, which provides a basic property for what group it should adhere to. The group in this scenario will only contain a single component. In complex scenarios, you may have a group which contains multiple components and excludes others. The process method is the beating heart of the system. In this case, it will be providing an entity, and we will need to make sure that the entity's component is extracted from it. So we can use this entity.getComponent and give it the generic type that we need. You can also use other methods, however this are the shorthand methods which requires an extension method. Once we've got the component, we then need to be able to extract data from that and populate the elapsed time. So let's inject in the iUpdate scheduler. It abstracts away a way to get the elapsed time as well as hook into events such as update loops, etc. So now that we've got that and we've added that to the constructor, we can now do console component.timeAlive plus equals and then get the elapsed time, well the delta time, from the update scheduler. This provides us a time span object, so as you can see delta time is in milliseconds there. And that about does it for that system. Next up, we're going to need to make a new system, and that job is going to be to output things on the console. So much like the other system, we'll need to go in and add the group that we need. So this will be console component. So within the process method on this system, we'll need to get the component again like in the other system, and we'll add a console.writeLine, and we'll just output there the elapsed time which has occurred, and we will output the variable from within the component. So now that that's done, all we need to do is set up our application within our program and go to the main function. Within there, we can do var application equals new my EcsRx application. And then all we need to do is application.start application, and then when we're ready to tidy everything up, application.stop application. Now we're ready to start running our application. So if we run it, we should see the elapsed time just constantly being thrown out, because one system is updating the component's last time elapsed, and one system is outputting that to the console. So together both systems are running constantly, taking the entity, spitting out the data. But let's see, if we wanted to destroy the entity after, let's say, it had reached, 2000 milliseconds, all we would need to do is make sure that we check for greater than 2000, and then once it's reached more than 2000 milliseconds, we just simply go on, do entity.removeComponent, and pass in the component that we have above. And then that way the component's removed, so it will no longer adhere to the group that the systems are looking for. As you can see, it flips through until it reaches time elapsed just under 2000, and then it no longer prints out, because the systems are no longer processing that entity, because the group no longer has the required component. And that there wraps it up. I hope that was useful, and if you have any further questions, let us know in the comments or drop into our Discord channel.